think Umar is dope, but I think Umar says stuff to deflect from the fact we have not seen that damn school yet. And a lot of what he says will get the clicks, the likes, and the views, but some of the stuff he says just does not make sense. People who are every emotionally damaged person always promiscuous, always. That's crazy. And the cat with the stats, Dr. Umar, quick to spit off a stat, didn't cite a source, didn't give us no statistical data to back that up. Also, by him being a doctor, emotionally damaged is not a medical term. It's not a diagnosis. It's colloquial. It's colloquial, right? So, if I was going just with the observable eye, we know all types of people. And even if I just go from what James was saying, because I agree, I think he was talking about women, but I think it applies across the board, how people respond. Because we just heard a whole bunch of brothers, hey man, this heifer broke my heart. I ran through him. I wasn't a young bull on the top with pops talking about some, you know what I'm saying, we gonna walk down and get them all. I was ready to, you know what I'm saying, to the window, to the wall, right?
I was just, oh my bad. I was just gonna add to it. I was like, how many times have we heard a guy after a heartbreak, which is technically trauma, say, I'm on demon time from here on out?
So Sweeney, this is a story I've shared in this space plenty of times. The last breakup I had before my boo thing, I was in Detroit. I had left, and I lived in Atlanta for 20 years. I left Atlanta to start a new life with a woman, and it didn't work out. And it was a bad breakup. I was emotional, damn it, all that shit, right? And I remember saying I could go. It was two things that stopped me though. I was like, yo, I could just run, but I was in Detroit. I wasn't for to touch nothing in Detroit. And I was older. I was smarter. I knew better, right? I had to do the work on me to get better for me. Had I not done, Shan, real spill, had I not done that work, I wouldn't have never recognized this woman when she came. I wouldn't have never recognized her. So that's why I'm like, I'm listening to everybody. And I'm like, the whole time, I'm like, damn, no, I was emotionally damaged. Quote, emotionally damaged at one point. And I refrained. Right? We all have those stories. So, shout out to Dr. Umar. I think he makes some good points on some things. I just don't think this is one of them.
Fair enough. I got a question specifically for you, Sharon. This is specific to your expertise. Specific to your expertise. Being in LA, being in the film industry, being in that whole industry, right? It's an influx of young women coming in regularly. Do you see any correlation to emotional trauma and how they maneuver through the industry?
LA is the repository for broken people. And they come here and they get broke. It gets worse because LA will chew them up and then send them back home worse than the way they came. A lot of people come out here, man, they get hooked on drugs. See, I was just having a conversation with somebody about this the other day. They come out, everybody thinks they're going to be a star. You live in the Midwest, you grew up in a small town, you had DirecTV satellite piped into your house and you saw these movies and you paid attention to the star of the TV show and you ignored all the background actors. And what you thought was because you're good looking or because everybody wanted to be with you in your small town with your one major store in 10 miles away, that you was going to be able to come out here to LA and be the next star. And you come out here and next thing you know, you meet Harvey Weinstein. You get your ass chewed up. And then when things don't happen the way you thought they were, 3 years later, we send you on back home. Body counts, high double digits, drugs, alcohol, and go on back to mama and go and get that job that you had before you left. Yeah, it happens a lot out here, man. There's only a few people that actually survive or even make a living, much less become a superstar. You can forget that. You got a better chance to get in the NBA. But that's just LA. And a lot of people just don't learn it or know it until they get out here and it's too late. So the thing is, though, so Dr. Umar was 100 for me. I believe that Dr. Umar needs to speak to make sure he does not alienate his largest fan base, which is women. And so he knows that's who's sending in those cash apps for the FDMG school. And so he has to say, you know, people instead of saying what we all know he really wants to say. But I don't think that he was actually speaking. And by the way, in intellectual discussions, you know, some, not all goes without saying. So even though he said all, or, you know, we all know, and especially in the intellectual discussions, that nothing is absolute. And as a doctor, and him being the doctor that he is, he's probably thinking on that level. Plus, he's on a podcast. So, you know, like really, you said emotionally damaged is not a medical term, but compulsive sexual disorder is. And that's what promiscuity is the symptom of. So porn stars are not more emotionally damaged than your sister. They've done studies on that, because you would think, you know, man, you get into porn, you get on the stripper pole, you must have had some bad childhood trauma. Your uncle was touching you wrong or something like that. And they found out that some porn, they found that in fact, in some instances, porn stars are more solidly emotionally sound than the average person or the average woman. Let's just speak on the woman's side. They're not more emotionally damaged, but we got to understand something though. Promiscuity is indiscriminate sex. And so I'm going to speak to my man Clout, because Clout was talking about just wanting to have sex. See, it's not a high libido necessarily, a Clout. It's like, if you like sex, you can fuck one person every night. You can have sex. If it's about just having sex, you can have sex with your girlfriend or your husband every single night because you enjoy having sex or you want to, have an orgasm. The thing about promiscuity is indiscriminate sex with people that don't matter, and you just want to screw them and get on and move on. And that's where the psychological breakup is. And that's what Umar was speaking to. So it's less about loving sex and more about needing attention from random motherfuckers. And that's what I think he was speaking of. And that's why they say that promiscuity is a symptom of like borderline personality disorder. That's where the compulsive sexual disorder part comes in, which is a medical term. Now, the good news is promiscuity is something that is not an addiction. People can get over it and shit. All you got to do is make a decision to stop. It's not like smoking cigarettes or doing crystal meth or drinking alcohol. You can get over it, but we cannot remove the fact that somebody who let me just say it, that women, young women particularly, who want to have indiscriminate sex with men, one night stands, going to the club, going to Vegas, smashing random dudes they meet, and then just going. We cannot remove the fact that there's a psychological issue there somewhere. It may not necessarily be something that happened, because you got to understand, trauma is not always linear. It doesn't mean that just because in order for you to be promiscuous, that somebody had to touch you as a child. It could be because you lost your grandfather and you loved him a lot. It could be because you watched your puppy get ran over by a car in the street. It's not, trauma isn't one-to-one. This is what happened to you, so this is what you're gonna do. It could be something that happened over here that causes you to do something over there. And sometimes whatever happened over here can make somebody want to have a connection with random people, or like he said in the video, when the husband is gone and there's no, it could be somebody that got attacked. It could be a woman that watched her brother get beat up on the bus ride home from school one day, or she got jumped by a bunch of girls. And so now she doesn't want to be away from anybody. And the only way that she feels that she can have a connection with a man is to give him sex, because otherwise he may not stay long. No matter how you slice it, to have indiscriminate sex, to just screw people, not just because you're horny, not just because you want to fuck, because you could get a boyfriend and just fuck, to fuck 40 motherfuckers before you 18, there's an issue there. And so I believe personally that Umar was speaking particularly about women, less about men. And I won't get into to the men's side. You guys talked about that enough. But I do believe that it is some sort of emotional breakdown that's happened at some point, or is currently happening at that time. You may have had a perfect childhood, and then something has happened right now in real time that's causing you to be promiscuous. It doesn't necessarily mean it happened 13 years ago, 5 years ago. It could have happened last week. You could have lost a boyfriend and then didn't know what to do, because he was taking care of you, or he was such a great man to you, and then he cheated on you, and now you out here just smashing the homies. It could be a whole lot of different reasons. I'm not a doctor. I'm not going, but I can't imagine that it just be because, I just like to fuck.